Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's big reveal of the top 24 images from NANPA's 2024 Showcase competition. My name is Beth Hunting, and I'm the president of NANPA. If you're already familiar with NANPA, the North American Nature Photography Association, we're a nonprofit membership association in partnership with ASMP, the American Society of Media Photographers. NANPA and ASMP help photographers experience growth as artists and entrepreneurs. Through nature photography, citizen science, education, networking, and advocacy, together with our members, we advance nature photography, conservation, and foster ethical field practices for the long-term benefit of all. Today, you're in for a special treat as we reveal the top 24 showcase images from our annual photo competition called Showcase. As the name Showcase implies, this competition gives us an opportunity each year to share and promote some of the most beautiful and most compelling photographic images created by our members. The 2024 Showcase that we're here to celebrate today was open to submissions from August 1st to September 18th, 2023. We received more than 3,259 photographs from 400 photographers who are members of NANPA or ASMP. Our judges had the difficult task of identifying the top 250 images across 6 categories: birds, altered reality, mammals, and a combination of macro, micro, and other wildlife, conservation, and scapes. Today, I have the honor of congratulating the winners and introducing Wendy Shatil, Showcase Coordinator. Wendy will introduce 2 of our judges and reveal the top 24 images in the competition. Truly the best of the best. So now let's jump right in. Wendy, it's all yours.
Thanks, Beth. I'm going to include George Lepp and Morgan Heim, who you see on your screen right now. But right now, I'm going to share my screen and show you the winners, announce them, and tell you all about them. So you're going to see 4 award-winning photos in each of the 6 categories. And we'll start with the 2 Judges' Choice winners, then the first runner-up, and finally, best in category. And then one of our judges will talk about the winning image and tell you why it was selected as a top prize. So Showcase has 2 sets of well-recognized main round judges. The conservation category is scored by 3 members of ILCP, the International League of Conservation Photographers. The other 5 categories are judged by a different team, and their diverse experience brings multiple dimensions into the decision-making process. As I mentioned, the judges today who are going to comment on their category winners are George Lepp and Morgan Heim. And George and Mo, thanks very much for giving your time and expertise today. We're going to get started right away with birds. This includes every bird in the world. 1,189 entries were submitted in the birds category this year, and there were more photos in that category than any of the other 5. So beginning with the Judges' Choice Awards, the first one goes to John Ehrenfeld for sky surfing, photographed in San Francisco Bay, California. And in John's caption, he says, "I was photographing black skimmers along with some nesting American avocets and black-net stilts on a small inlet. Suddenly, a red-tailed hawk appeared and made several passes at the nests, trying to grab an egg. Needless to say, the avocet and stilt adults were in a panic, and while the females stayed with the nests, the males took off and started harassing the hawk. In an incredulous moment, one brave avocet landed on the hawk's back, trying to push him away. He was successful. Nature never fails to amaze." And that's our first Judge's Choice in birds. Our second one goes to Owen Deutsch for iwi perching upside down. This was photographed, of course, in Maui, Hawaii. No caption was given for this photo. So we'll go on to the first runner-up by William Halliday, titled Macaw Peekaboo, photographed in Costa Rica. And he says, "This scarlet macaw was flying by on its way to perch when it looked over to see me pointing my camera at it. Luckily, I was shooting at the precise moment it saw me. This was photographed at a macaw farm that's dedicated to helping protect the macaw population in Costa Rica, where the birds are not captive, but they are fed and cared for. And our best of category in birds goes to Tim Oliver for Hummingbird and Water, photographed in Gilbert, Arizona. Captioned, Anna's hummingbird attempting to quench thirst on a hot summer afternoon in Arizona. And now George Lepp is going to comment on this winner.
Well, when a judge sees an image that he or she wishes they'd seen and captured themselves, your image has an advantage. I've seen this behavior before, but never in this stopped action where you see every detail, you see the water stopped and everything else that's right there in front of you. The mouth open kind of gives the hummingbird a bit of an expression which adds to the interest of the picture. All three of the judges were basically stopped in their tracks, just like the water and the hummingbird.
Thank you, George. On to our next category, which is macro, micro, and all other wildlife. This includes images of non-bird, non-mammal wildlife, as well as close-ups of any subject. And this sounds like a catch-all category, but it's important to know that before Showcase even had categories, these subjects competed equally with all of the subjects. And at 351 entries, macro, micro, and all wildlife collectively represents about 10% of all the submissions in Showcase. So our first Judge's Choice Award goes to Kathy Raffel for Basilisk Lizard Gets Its Snake, photographed in Costa Rica. And Kathy says, within a few feet of the trail, we spotted a basilisk lizard, which had just caught a coffee snake. We watched in amazement as the snake struggled to get free. And over about 5 minutes, the lizard gradually swallowed the snake. It twisted and pulled right up until the last moments when it disappeared down the lizard's throat. Our second Judge's Choice Award goes to Christopher Higgs for Old Blue Eyes, photographed at Phil Foster Park, Riviera Beach, Florida. While photographing a nearby seahorse, this gray moray eel was intent on paying my camera housing a visit. Typically shy, I retreated to give it space, but it was determined to stare at me with its old blue eyes. Christopher also won the first runner-up prize with Next Generation, also photographed at Phil Foster Park in Florida. This is a marine sanctuary and preservation area for the multiple species that thrive under the Blue Heron Bridge. This octomom was nursing her clutch of eggs inside an old PVC pipe that had become part of the artificial reef developed around the bridge. The photo was taken the last day before the eggs hatched. And our best in category for macro, micro, and other goes to Thomas Myers for ant tending membrasids, photographed in Ecuador. No caption is included, but I know George has some things to say about this.
Well, this photograph of the ant tending, and these are tree hoppers, or one member of that family. And everything we look for in a macro photograph is right here in this image. We've got the sharpness of the ant and every detail of the head and the leaf hoppers right below them. Even though they're supporting characters, they do a really nice job. The color variation between the reds and the greens is also a way of showing something. The droplet in the ant's mouth really adds again to the subject itself. It has great lighting. It has a supporting background, which doesn't take away from the image. And it's incredibly well done.
Yes, it is. Our next conservation category is going to be judged by Mo, and we begin here with the two Judges' Choice Awards. This goes to Wayne Wolfersberger, titled Fishing Line Captures Raven, and he photographed this in Yellowstone National Park. He does say in his caption, resource management was contacted and the raven was freed. The other judge's choice goes to Dan Maley for Coral's Last Hope, photographed in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Dan says, just before sunset, the grooved brain coral spawns in a coral restoration laboratory. The tiny pink bundles of sperm and egg float to the surface, where scientists collect them. Through assisted fertilization with other members of the same species, this is the best chance for many corals to create the grooved brain corals of tomorrow. Coral spawning happens once a year. And through understanding moon cycles, tides, and ocean properties, scientists can pinpoint the exact time the corals will release their sperm and egg bundles. Unfortunately for many coral species, so few exist in the wild that the chances of their gametes meeting up and fertilizing in the ocean are near zero. So novel techniques like this allow scientists to gather sperm and egg in a laboratory to fertilize them and create the next generation of corals to be outplanted back to the reef. Now, our first runner-up in the conservation category goes to Ryan Wagner for Dogpile, photograph in Hebron, Ohio. This is a pile of a dozen dead coyotes at a hunting contest in north central Ohio. Hunting teams spend 3 days shooting as many coyotes as they can. Over 150 coyotes are harvested for this competition, one of dozens like it throughout the state. Following awards for heaviest coyote and most kills, carcasses are haphazardly discarded. No part of the coyote is used. This image captures the detached and callous nature with which we approach other living beings. It was taken in full view of the participants and spectators at a public hunting contest and with permission of the hunters. And our best of category in conservation goes to Heather Valey for In the Middle of It All, photographed in Centennial, Colorado. And Heather says, the prairie dog colony on this construction lot was bulldozed alive, killing most of the animals on the site. A survivor sits in the middle of the action. He unknowingly will be subject to the same fate. Prairie dogs have found themselves in a battle that's hard to win. As the Front Range of Colorado grows, the shortgrass prairie on the outskirts is divided into small plots for development. Eventually, these animals become locked into 2-acre plots that can't support their population. Developers usually deal with these animals by bulldozing the colony alive or with poison. They're considered nuisance animals in Colorado, and getting permits to relocate them is a process mired in bureaucracy. And now, with comments about the 2 winners in conservation, the best of category and the first runner-up is Morgan Heim.
Hi, thanks, Wendy. And I just want to say, you know, this was a difficult category to choose a winner, because you can see in our top 4 here, they're very diverse, they're very well seen, and they really represent a gamut of conservation issues. They're all unique in their own way, from seeing that kind of spot news with the raven tangled in the tree to that scientific conservation image that's very beautifully crafted. But these top 2 images really struck the judges, both for their composition, how the photographer was able to get in and have access to seeing these very, very difficult moments, having that access to the coyote hunting and getting in close and photographing that action, that scene, in a way that you can also tell that the photographer was accepted into that moment. The hunters are not noticing the photographer. They're not giving the photographer a hard time as he's there documenting the coyote hunt. As well as this image in particular by Heather Valey of the prairie dogs. This is a picture that really struck a lot of us, because it takes something that we are all participants in, you know, as we live our daily lives and as more and more residential land gets developed. And it takes something that we usually tend to see as sort of a large scale impact, or hear about as a large scale impact, you know, areas of development. And you're really homing in on the price to a single life. And this is very much about the decisive moment. I love images where at first you're looking at it and you think it's about the development, and it takes you a minute to see that prairie dog sitting there. And then when you do, this photograph hits you in a whole other way. You feel the doom that is literally looming over this prairie dog. And it's a species that is often maligned. It's people either love them or hate them, but it's also a species that doesn't get that much attention photographically. So we're very honored to get to highlight this particular image. It's very well crafted, the way the shaft of light just falls right where the prairie dog is, the way the prairie dog's head falls just below the rim of the hole and has that little bit of edge light around it. That makes it that much more powerful. It's very well seen, and the photographer really paid attention to every detail happening in this moment. So I'm thrilled that this picture, and congratulations to all of the winners in this category for your eyes and your attention and your heart in covering these issues.
Thank you, Mo. And we're going to move from the serious to the sublime, announcing the winners in altered reality. And this category is for photos that display an obvious change in natural color, form, shape, or any combination of these. And the image must be enhanced or transformed beyond the way the subject appears in nature. And there were 139 entries in this category. Judge's choice. The first one goes to Andy Wolcott for Let It Snow, photographed in Tanzania at Ngorongoro Conservancy. And Andy says, these young jackals will never see snow, yet their luxurious coats dappled with white certainly suggest a wintry day. Two youngsters stopped their boisterous play long enough to assess whether or not that camera thing was a threat, and deciding it wasn't, resumed a spirited game of tag. Unable to get away from the idea of a winter scene, I masked and desaturated the jackals, overexposed the background, and emphasized every bit of noise available. The only alterations to the original are cropping, masking, saturation, and exposure changes. The graininess of the image actually enhanced the final impression, lending a pencil-drawn effect that I chose to emphasize. The second Judge's Choice Award is to Marty Purdy for Checking Out the Nest, photographed in Christmas, Florida. And he says, a roseate spoonbill busy with nest building activities descends to check out its progress. The original image was edited in Lightroom and digitally hand-painted in Photoshop. First runner-up in altered reality goes to Joyce Harmon for Flower Art, photographed in Northern Virginia. After capturing the flow of this dying flower, I wanted to add an artistic look and enhance the flow of the petals. I used one of my favorite apps with several layers to bring out the textures without losing the feel of the flower. Several layers of texture were added to this image using an app on the iPhone. And our best of category in altered reality goes to Stephanie Becker for Pandemic Moon's Sphere. I used Photoshop to create the sphere of the individual moon images that I had captured. This creation is also important to me since my father passed during the pandemic, and he was the person I always stargazed with, and we watched the moon together. George, your comments on altered reality, please.
Well, the combination of orbs caught the judge's attention, even though it doesn't have some of the same techniques that we would see like in the previous three images we looked at. But the fact that the creativity here of all of the moon, which are orbs, then altered into to fit this whole circle was very interesting. I found myself as the judge immersed in each of these images in here, and I spent quite a bit of time looking at them because each of the images was quite interesting. And one of the things about getting noticed in competition is how long the judges will interact or be immersed in that particular image. And the fact that we were all looking at all these images and liking the individual parts of it added quite a bit to it.
Thank you, George. On to mammals. This category includes both land and sea mammals. The second largest number of entries was in mammals. There were 963. And the first Judge's Choice Award in mammals goes to Carol Grenier. This was photographed in Yellowstone National Park. And the caption is, members of the Wapiti Lake Pack had frequent interactions, reestablishing bonds and confirming the pack hierarchy. The other Judge's Choice Award is given to Bruce Taubert for At a Waterhole, photographed near Cave Creek, Arizona. A mule deer doe and her fawn are drinking at a desert waterhole at sunset. Mule deer fawns are normally birthed in late July in the Sonoran Desert of Arizona. And this was photographed using a camera trap. First runner-up in mammals goes to Jennifer Smith for this image titled Looking for the Off Switch, photographed in Katmai National Park. And I think Jennifer felt that the title said it all, and the image does too, because she didn't give a caption to it. It doesn't need one. Our best in category for mammals is for Kevin Dooley's photo of protection of the herd, taken in Botswana. No comments by this photographer, but I know George has some insights into it.
Well, the young elephant and the person, us looking at them, it's very much of an intimate image where we're down there with the youngster because of the low angle that was used. What else added to the interest in this image from the judges was the fact that the sharpness and all of the textures of the two adult elephants, which incidentally have got their legs up just in exactly at the right position. Even the youngster has a leg up in the right position and everything. But it gives a perspective in the size. So this caught our attention. It's interesting that what I'm saying here is basically what all three judges would be saying at the same time. Actually, four judges, because we had Joe McDonald, and both he and his wife were helping together. And I had help from my wife as well. So there's a number of eyes looking at these images.
Thank you, George. On to our last category, which is scapes. This includes landscape, plantscape, seascape, atmosphere, weather, and similar subjects. So there were 519 entries in scapes this year. One of our Judges' Choice Awards goes to Margaret Larkin for Columbia River Gorge Sunset, photographed in Oregon. She says, this photo was taken in May at peak wildflower bloom when yellow balsam root and lupin fill the hillsides. Nothing was added or removed, only masking between sky and foreground. The second Judge's Choice goes to Joyce Harmon for Butte Landscape, photographed near Hanksville, Utah. Joyce says, flying my drone off over this landscape was one of the most amazing things I've done photographically. The soft early morning light added texture to the landscape. I played around with composition until I had a nice background. First runner-up goes to Carl Johnson. This is taken in Denali National Park, Alaska, of a flock of sandhill cranes headed south as a thick lenticular cloud hovers over the summit of Denali. This is one of my favorite aspects of visiting the park in autumn. To be out hiking on the tundra and hear the calls of sandhill cranes as they pass overhead on their way south is peaceful, elating, and part of how I can really feel autumn in my bones. Our best of category in scapes goes to Chris Bartell for Lavender Dreamscape, photographed in Hood River, Oregon, titled Milky Way in the Lavender Field During Summer. George?
Well, while we're judging landscapes, we see many, many night skies with Milky Ways in them, and they're quite interesting. It's only been in the last few years that we've had the capability of actually photographing this, but they become kind of secondary, and we'll say, yeah, that's nice, ho-hum. But then you add a bunch of lavender in the foreground and some interesting lighting that brings out the color of that and the combination together, and it becomes a whole new thing. The main point we could make from this is don't be too afraid to shoot some of the things that seem to be what we see every day. Just kind of try to approach it from a little different angle. This is a perfect example of that and caught all of the judges' attention.
Thank you very much. So those are your 24 winners from the 21st year of NANPA's Showcase competition. And I want to thank George and Morgan and the other judges who spent a lot of time and experience judging your images. And now back to Beth.
Thank you, Wendy, George, and Mo. It's really exciting to see the images in this portfolio of award winners. Some are beautiful and others are really profound and impactful. I hope you'll join me in offering a toast and a heartfelt congratulations to these hardworking photographers. We're grateful to all the ways that you share your love of nature and with the world, and know that you're making a significant difference and an impact on nature education and conservation with these images. To view the winning images, go to the NANPA website at www.nampa.org. If you can't wait to see the other selected images from the 2024 showcase, you won't have long to wait. We'll be posting the top 250 winners on our website. For the first time, Petapixel is showcasing the winning images on their front page. In fact, they're being posted right now as we unveil them to you. And backed by popular demand, NANPA is again publishing expressions in print format. This will be available after the first of the year. One copy will be provided to each of the entrants with images in the top 250, and additional copies will be available for purchase by anyone. And speaking of judges, last but not least, I'd like to thank the 2024 Showcase panel of judges. You had a daunting task, and we thank you. If these images inspired you to get out into the field, shoot and enter NANPA's Showcase, and you're not a NANPA or ASMP member, please join us by going to www.nampa.org. Thank you for sharing this live reveal of the top 24 Showcase winners. Congratulations again to the winning photographers. I look forward to seeing you at another NANPA event soon. Goodbye.